On May 7, 2025, the uneasy calm between India and Pakistan shattered, ending weeks of tense anticipation along the border. The world had been watching, holding its breath, as both nations amassed troops and hardware, but few could have predicted the scale of what was about to unfold. As dawn broke, the skies thundered with the launch of Operation Sindoor, India's largest and most technologically advanced military strike in decades. The operation was meticulously planned, with airbases across the country coming alive in a synchronized display of power and precision. This was no border skirmish. Indian drones and missiles struck deep into Pakistani territory, targeting strategic sites and infrastructure, signaling a dramatic escalation that stunned military analysts worldwide. Over 700 drones swarmed across the border, identifying and destroying targets with chilling precision. The sheer scale and coordination of the drone assault marked a new chapter in modern warfare. The operation marked a turning point. Technology, not just troops, now defined the battlefield. Command centers buzzed with activity as real-time data and artificial intelligence guided every move. News outlets scrambled for clarity as both governments maintained tight control over information. Rumors and speculation filled the airwaves, adding to the confusion and fear. In Pakistan, air raid sirens blared and the military went on high alert. Civilians rushed for shelter, uncertain of what the next hours would bring. The strikes bypassed traditional defenses, hitting targets far from the line of control and sending shockwaves through Pakistan's defense establishment. The reach and accuracy of the attacks left many questioning the future of regional security. Operation Sindoor's name, drawn from a symbol of Indian identity, underscored the nationalistic message behind the action. It was a statement of intent, meant to rally the nation and send a clear signal to the world. India projected strength and resolve, while the world watched, anxious about the risk of all-out war. Diplomatic channels buzzed with urgent calls for restraint, but the situation remained volatile. As the day unfolded, it was clear South Asia had entered a dangerous new era, one where technology and nationalism would shape the fate of millions. Every conflict has a trigger. For India, it was the April 22, 2025 terrorist attack in Pahalgam, Kashmir, which left tourists dead and the nation outraged. India blamed Pakistan-based groups, demanding action and vowing to eliminate cross-border terror threats. Operation Sindoor was framed as a preemptive strike, targeting militant camps and infrastructure across the border. Officials insisted it was self-defense, not aggression, after diplomacy failed to stop attacks. The government, under intense domestic pressure, saw limited action as inadequate and opted for a sweeping show of force. Pakistan, however, rejected India's justification, calling the operation unprovoked aggression and a violation of sovereignty. Islamabad accused India of using the attack to distract from internal issues and pursue regional dominance. With both sides entrenched, the stage was set for escalation. The world now faced a crisis rooted in deep mistrust and competing narratives. The cycle of violence and blame had begun anew. Operation Sindoor was a meticulously coordinated assault reaching far beyond the borders of Kashmir. Indian drones and missiles struck multiple targets in Bahawalpur, Sialkot, and deep inside Pakistan-administered Kashmir. The use of over 700 drones, some for surveillance, others as kamikaze munitions, completely overwhelmed Pakistani air defenses. India claimed it targeted only militant infrastructure, carefully avoiding civilian casualties. This distinction was crucial for India's diplomatic messaging, framing the strikes as counter-terrorism, not war. Pakistan countered with images of destroyed homes and civilian casualties, accusing India of indiscriminate attacks. The truth was obscured by propaganda and conflicting reports from both sides. Both sides waged an information war, each presenting their own version of unfolding events. Independent verification was nearly impossible amid the chaos and confusion. The fog of war deepened, fueling even further mistrust. Pakistan's response was immediate and forceful, signaling its readiness to meet any threat head-on. The nation's military command swung into action, mobilizing resources and personnel with remarkable speed. Within hours, its air force and missile units launched coordinated retaliatory strikes on Indian military targets, demonstrating both precision and resolve. The skies lit up as missiles streaked toward their objectives, and the world took notice of the scale and intensity of the response. Islamabad emphasized it deliberately avoided civilian areas, aiming to contrast its actions with India's alleged indiscriminate attacks. This narrative was pushed strongly in official statements and media coverage. The Pakistani military claimed to have struck 26 Indian military sites, projecting both restraint and unwavering resolve. Officials highlighted the careful selection of targets to minimize collateral damage. The Director General of Inter-Services Public Relations, DG ISPR, addressed the nation, vowing to defend sovereignty while blaming India for reckless escalation. He assured citizens that Pakistan's armed forces were fully prepared for any further aggression. Pakistan alleged a second wave of Indian attacks on its air bases, claiming its air defenses intercepted all incoming missiles. The military showcased footage of radar operators and anti-missile systems in action, reinforcing their narrative of preparedness. India did not confirm these events, but Pakistan used them to showcase its military competence and boost national morale. News channels ran continuous coverage, fueling patriotic fervor. The tit-for-tat strikes marked a dangerous shift from limited skirmishes to direct state-on-state confrontation, raising fears of a broader conflict erupting along the tense border. Both sides now claimed the moral high ground, each accusing the other of aggression and justifying their own actions to domestic and international audiences. The region teetered on the edge of a wider war, with civilians and soldiers alike bracing for what might come next. The world watched, alarmed by the rapid escalation, as diplomats scrambled to prevent a catastrophic conflict between two nuclear-armed neighbors. In the aftermath, DG ISPR Lieutenant General Ahmed Sharif Chowdhury became Pakistan's chief spokesperson. His press conferences delivered stern warnings, accusing India of pushing the region toward nuclear war. The conflict escalated further when India suspended the Indus Waters Treaty, threatening Pakistan's water supply. The DG ISPR declared any attempt to block water as an act of war, warning of generational consequences. He linked the crisis to the unresolved Kashmir dispute, insisting peace was impossible without its resolution. The DG ISPR also accused India of regional destabilization, including alleged attacks on Afghanistan and aggressive naval moves. These statements aimed to rally international opinion and portray Pakistan as a victim of Indian aggression. The rhetoric raised the stakes, making compromise even harder. The conflict's defining feature was India's massive drone deployment, signaling a new era of warfare. Drones allowed India to strike deep with minimal risk, but also escalated the conflict's intensity. Both sides claimed heavy losses inflicted on the other, with Pakistan alleging it shot down Indian jets and destroyed advanced systems, claims India denied. The human toll was severe. Pakistan reported at least 40 civilian deaths, including women and children, blaming India for indiscriminate strikes. Images of destruction and grieving families dominated Pakistani media, fueling outrage. Civilians on both sides faced terror, displacement, and the collapse of daily life. Schools closed, businesses shuttered, and border communities fled. The psychological impact was profound. Millions lived in fear, uncertain of what tomorrow would bring. In this high-tech war, it was ordinary people who suffered most. Beyond the battlefield, a fierce and relentless information war raged, shaping perceptions far from the front lines. Both governments used press conferences, official statements, and social media platforms to shape narratives, influence public opinion, and discredit the other side. Claims and counterclaims about military successes, losses, and even supposed advance warnings of the strikes flooded the airwaves and dominated headlines. Pakistan's assertions of downed Indian jets and destroyed defense systems became propaganda victories at home, while India categorically denied all losses. Each side's citizens lived in separate realities, fed by state-controlled information and a constant stream of updates. Accusations soon expanded to include regional destabilization, cross-border interference, and terrorism sponsorship. The battle for global opinion and international sympathy was as intense as the fighting itself on the ground. In the end, the truth was often lost in a blizzard of propaganda, rumors, and misinformation. As the crisis threatened to spiral out of control, the United States intervened, brokering a fragile ceasefire on May 10, 2025. The world watched anxiously as high-stakes diplomacy unfolded behind closed doors, with negotiators racing against time to prevent a wider catastrophe. The ceasefire, though welcomed, was only a temporary pause in a much deeper conflict. The guns fell silent, but mistrust lingered. Both sides accused each other of violating the truce. Skirmishes and sporadic exchanges continued to test the limits of the agreement, keeping the region on edge. International pressure, including calls for restraint from Saudi Arabia, helped prevent further escalation, but couldn't resolve the core disputes. The global community urged both nations to return to the negotiating table, but deep-rooted grievances remained. The suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty added a new layer of danger, turning a military standoff into a looming humanitarian crisis. Millions now faced uncertainty over access to water, threatening livelihoods and food security across the region. The fundamental issue, Kashmir, remained unresolved, fueling ongoing tension. The people of Kashmir continued to live under the shadow of conflict, their future uncertain. The large-scale use of drones and missiles set a dangerous precedent for future conflicts. The rapid escalation of technology and warfare raised new fears about the next confrontation. The region's uneasy calm was punctuated by the knowledge that war could return at any moment. Ordinary people lived with constant anxiety, hoping for lasting peace. The responsibility for peace now rests with the leaders of India and Pakistan. Their choices in the coming months will shape the destiny of millions. They face a stark choice: continue down the path of confrontation, or find the will for meaningful dialogue. The world urges them to choose hope over hostility. The world waits, hoping for wisdom over war, and for a future where peace is not just a pause, but a lasting reality for generations to come.